and I'd like to call the October 6th Blissfield Village Council meeting to order. Could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take roll, Lisa.
Wendusa,
Present.
Rob Valdez,
Present on Zoom in Florida, Lee County.
Barbara McHenry,
Present.
James Dyson,
Present.
Jerry Hayes,
Present.
Mike Gunner,
Present.
Tim Waters.
Present.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda states that we're going to be asking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. We have a motion by we have a motion by James and seconded by Barb to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any further discussions? Please take roll, Lisa.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Gwen.
Yes. Motion passed. Item number 3 on our agenda is our public comment, and that is states it's going to be regarding the item on the agenda. And what I'd like to do at this time, please, is to explain the rules of public comment before we begin for clarification. Anyone who wishes to speak at this time about the item on this meeting's agenda, you're going to please come to the podium, sign in, and state your name for the record. Council has adopted a resolution limiting each speaker to 5 minutes unless it's voted on by council. And we're limited in the scope of information that we can share at this time regarding this item on the agenda. Our attorney will be guiding us if and when we can respond.
I'll speak.
Please do. And again, all you have to do is just simply, you have to actually sign in if you would, please.
Yep, I already did.
Beautiful, thank you. And just state your name for the record.
Chuck Emerson, I live at 367 South Monroe Street. Really, I tell you what, I really don't want to get into the actions of what's happened. But what I really want to do, I'd like to address the whole council as a whole, because guys, this crap's gotta stop. We can't have this bickering, picking and choosing sides. Let's get all together, okay? It can't work this way. Nobody's happy, and it just can't. And that, you, Gwen, except for you and James, everybody else knows me. You know, you don't, but I've lived in this town for over 50 years. Never seen nothing like this in my life. And you know what? You're an elected official. And if you want to continue to be on here, you're all going to speak together. You're all going to get together when there's an issue and take care of it as a whole. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Chuck.
I've already signed in.
Thank you.
I'm Robert Erdley at 333 South Monroe. I've been a resident of Blissfield for 15 years, lifetime Lenawee County resident. I've been 30 years with the federal government, and I see too many problems going on that's going to cost in the future libel lawsuits for the way the action of the board is taken on proposed removal of people, and not making this information public to the residents. I think it'd be easier to resolve problems or to ask the citizens or put inputs from the residents instead of keeping everybody in a hush hush. I've heard so many rumors, and the rumors are all the way up to Lansing about Blissfield and our chief of police. Before that, our city administrator and the way he was terminated. Just putting a plug in your ear that like to have more openness from the board when there's matters that you think would be better resolved, unless it's something, sexual or something that, involved that, or privacy acts are involved, but I don't think that's the case with the police chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil, would you like to address that, why we have not been discussing anything regarding Chief Greenleaf at this time at council meeting?
Not sure. There's a couple of ways to do that. And I think I've known Chuck for as long as he's lived in Blissfield. Pretty easy.
Long time.
And I respect what Chuck has to say, and I'm sure all of you do. Mr. Eardley and I aren't acquainted. I've not met anybody on this board who doesn't support transparency and openness. I haven't been affiliated with the village for very long. Danielle and I had the dubious distinction of arriving at about the same time. We're learning together, right? Personnel matters by statute afford the employee certain discretions that aren't available with regard to other kinds of issues. Only the employee, where a personnel matter is an issue, only the employee can request that discussion go on outside of an open meeting. That the employee themselves can request that whatever discussion occurs as regards their issue be done in closed session. At this point, and I'm not sure why, the employee, Chief Greenleaf, has not appeared, and that makes it really difficult for the village council to have any sort of dialogue in an open meeting or a closed session at all, because he's not here. It's a long-standing tradition in the United States that the accused have the opportunity to confront his accusers, that the accused have both procedural and substantive due process. And I think the village council has wisely declined to take any sort of action, regardless of what it might be, unless and until the chief is here. I'm not suggesting that anybody's ducking the issue. They aren't. There are lots of reasons that I can't go into why things have transpired the way that they have. In terms of this evening's meeting, I asked for this meeting. I'll take the heat for that. I asked for this meeting because when you're dealing with municipalities, their actions have to be the product of deliberations by the governing body. That's all these folks here. There's not one of them who can act unilaterally. There's not one of them that has the authority to do something definitive without the approval of the others. And so if you want to think of it this way, tonight's meeting is an opportunity for the village council to meet with their lawyer. That's me. And just like when you go to your lawyer's office, what happens there remains there. You pay that lawyer to maintain the confidentiality of your discussion with him or her. They pay me to maintain the confidentiality of their discussions with me. And they are allowed, under certain circumstances, by the Michigan Open Meetings Act, to confer and deliberate in closed sessions. The notice of the meeting, I think, cites to the specific section of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and the subsections that allow the village council, the governing body, to meet with their attorney in closed session and to consider their actions or their options, if you wish, in closed sessions. One exception from the open meetings provisions is that they can consider negotiations in the course of threatened or pending litigation in closed session. They can consider their strategy. That's one. The other one, that's 102E, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about 102 E and H. So E is to consider settlement strategies and things like that. And H is to consider communications with their attorney as are protected by other state and federal statutes. And in Michigan, and both in Michigan and in the United States Code, communications with your attorney are considered to be privileged and confidential, and they can be conducted in closed session. So, Mr. Early, I respect what you said. If it were up to me, all of this would occur in open session. I'm a huge fan of transparency. I'm a huge fan of openness. Some people even accuse me of being a liberal. I don't think it's fair, but so that's the response. Gwen, yeah, I'm happy to answer a question if I can.
Is this considered an executive session or a closed session in the Michigan Act that you're,
This is a closed session.
this is a closed session?
Yeah. We have a quorum here, so you have to begin the meeting in an open session and then go into closed session and state the reason for doing so. And then come out of closed session, reopen the open meeting, and if you take action in the closed session, say what you did. Does that help?
Robert, did you have any more questions that you'd like to address?
No, thank you.
Anyone else care to make to address?
Hi, I think most of you know me, but my name is Jim Lonnicott. I live at 314 Franklin Street. I had two questions. Mr. Shaler answered one of them. And my questions were regarding the Open Meetings Act sections that were cited in the notice for tonight's meeting. 15268E does in fact mention specific pending litigation. In the 26 years I served as village administrator, our attorney told us that litigation actually had to have been filed to legally be considered pending. Has in fact litigation been filed by the village against someone else or by someone else against the village to activate that particular clause?
That's my knowledge. No,
H still covers it.
correct.
Okay,
That's why we cited it.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jim. Anyone else like to make a comment at this time?
I think I would.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say much. You got my letter, which I presented because we were gonna be gone. And I think, my name is Sue Fetzer. I'm at 401 Fairhaven Street. And what I'm looking at is the fact that I think the village is very concerned, because I think this affects all of us. We don't know what's going on. We can't make a judgment. And I think it's very concerning. And I'm not only concerned about who is living here now, but who are we going to bring into this community with the actions that we might take? And so I mean, there's nothing more I can say than what I said in my letter, but I just know that I think that in talking to people, we're very concerned. And I hope that whatever you choose to do, that this village is kept in mind and that it's going to be a positive move for us and not a negative. We see enough negative in the world. We don't need to see any more.
Thank you, Sue. One last call. Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda, there's a recommended motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion, we go into closed session at 7:15 PM for MCL 15.268 E and H, a settlement demand in the matter of the continued employment of Dale Greenleaf by the Village of Blissfield.
Support.
We have a motion by Barb and seconded by James to go into closed sessions at 7:15 PM for the MCL 15.268 E and H, a settlement demand in the matter of the continued employment of Dale Greenleaf by the Village of Blissfield. Are there any further discussions?
I have some, please. Number one, and I should have asked this earlier. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine. When we received notice of this special meeting, I specifically asked a question and I copied everybody on the reply. Who called this meeting? The reply was, after Danielle and Phil had talked, they had talked to Bob about having a special meeting, and then it was pointed out, wanted me to be very aware that specifically Bob did not call for it. Phil just said he asked for it. Under General Law Act 3 of 1895, only the president or 3 members of the council may appoint special meetings. So I guess I'm questioning the validity of this meeting anyway.
I'd like to address that question. Phil, please.
I asked Nicole to ask Bob, I think. Daniel.
Yes.
And I'm not, when you get to be my age, it happens.
Right.
I asked to have the meeting be conducted in closed session. I did. And I did so fully cognizant of the fact that I have no authority whatsoever to request, as it were, a closed meeting. If that helps.
It does, but I guess I was just unclear
I
then.
didn't want to give the impression that I had that authority.
I know, but it was specifically stated that Bob did not request the meeting. It only went through him from Danielle and from Phil.
I asked for a meeting and I asked for it to be conducted in closed session. I did. But I don't have the authority to make that happen.
So then who did? Again, back to my original question I asked in the email. Who requested the meeting? And I'm not trying to split hairs here. There's enough going on. I just want to make sure we're following what's supposed to be followed. That's all. I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. I'm not trying to put Bob on the spot again. I just want to know. And that was specifically asked, and I didn't feel like I got a real good answer. And then after hearing Phil speak tonight, I kind of validated what I was thinking, but.
I guess I understand what you were saying, I believe, but so Phil requested that we have the special meeting. I made the phone call to Bob asking if we could, and he was amenable to that. He did indicate in my conversation, and he's on Zoom, so he can confirm this for you, that it was not his preference, or that he would rather meet at the 11th meeting because he's in Florida and he'll be back at that time, but that if we did need to have a special meeting, we could, do so. I don't know if that helps, or.
I guess I just want to know if the president said, yes, go ahead with a special meeting. That's all I really want to know.
Yes. You had another one, Jerry, said?
Yes. So I think before we can talk about this subject in closed session, we had a motion on the table, or we motioned to table any discussion on this at our September 17th meeting. Trustee Iton, seconded by trustee Waters, unanimously approved to table this discussion until our October 11th meeting. So in order for us to discuss that tonight, I think there's a specific way we have to do that. And we have to, it has to be taken from the table, so.
What do you mean by take it from the?
We have, we voted to table this matter until October 11th. We have to take that from the table and say, we're gonna talk about it tonight.
So it is my understanding, so I do agree with you, we would need to untable the item to have discussion. However, what was tabled was the actual discussion of the continued employment of the chief. While this topic tonight is related to that, you as council will not at any point be asked to actually take action on deciding if the chief is or is not still or continuing to be employed. So again, the conversation is related to that, but it is different.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm asking Danielle, is it all in the verbiage of what I'm hearing you say, because it states a settlement demand? Is that different than?
Correct, it's not the actual continued employment, so you guys won't be voting if his employment continues tonight.
Understand, we're gonna be addressing the demand that's been made, for lack of better words.
That's fair.
Okay, so that's where, if I'm understanding correctly, Jerry's making the point that it was tabled until the October 11th meeting. That was specifically regarding the employment of Dale Greenleaf, because this is not the same as his continued employment, because this is a discussion regarding the settlement demand, that these are similar but yet different issues. Would that be fair to say?
It's a subtle distinction, but a distinction for
There
sure.
is a subtle distinction, I understand that. Okay, Jerry, did that answer your question?
I guess not, because how does a settlement demand not have anything to do with whether or not an employee is terminated?
It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not an employee is terminated, if I may. The issue before the council on the 17th was whether or not the chief of police ought to remain an employee of the village of Blissfield. That's not at issue tonight.
Okay.
There's no reason to table or to untable because they're not the same discussion. That's my professional opinion.
Any other council members have any discussion regarding the tabling or untabling at this time?
Can we say something else?
Not at this time, sir. Hang on 1 second, if you don't mind. Thank you. Does any other council member have trustee? I just want to make sure regarding the tabling issue. Okay. Jerry, was there a third item that you wanted to discuss?
I don't know, I thought I heard Mike say he had something, but maybe not.
Okay. Mike, is there something that you would like to discuss?
I had the same question regarding the table, so I appreciate it.
Okay, and Administrator Gross, I'd like to ask, we have a gentleman that would like to say something at this time. Would this be, in my opinion, from how the meeting is set up, this would not be an appropriate time for a member from the audience. Would that be accurate?
In order to keep the meeting moving forward, the appropriate times would be before, when it's talked about items on the agenda, and then at the end, there'll be an opportunity. So certainly you will have a chance to speak again.
But he brought up more issues. So you can fully do a full session, but he brought up more issues. So that brings up more questions. Because what you brought up totally contradicts what had been said.
I understand where you're coming from, sir, and I say this respectfully. And so unfortunately, sometimes once a dialogue begins with counsel like that, that does happen frequently, where items are shared, things are discussed, and then more questions, it leads itself to wanting to ask more questions. But as Administrator Gross stated, it was prior to, and now there will be an opportunity to speak after we come out of closed sessions. But I'll be very honest with you, at that time, we cannot talk about anything regarding the item on tonight's agenda.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that's not strictly true.
Can you clarify that? That was my understanding.
At the second session of open comment,
Excuse me, I'm not sure why there's a giggle to that. I am learning on this position. That's what the information I was given, and that's the route that I'm going with. So thank you for your patience as I learn this role.
at the second period of public comment,
Yes,
any issue which the public wishes to address is fair game.
it is.
Okay.
Okay, that is not the information that I have received. I'll make that correction. So, sir,
Can we just get one?
No, sir. No, sir.
Regarding what you
no,
said?
sir, no, sir. I apologize once again. We have to follow the format. We're trying very hard to learn from our mistakes in the past, and we're trying to stay streamlined as we are with this. And I apologize, didn't know that, now I do. You're welcome to talk about it after we come out of closed session, sir.
It sounds like you guys don't have the legal authority to go into a closed session.
No, according to our attorney, we do have that legal authority, and we're gonna continue forward.
He just said he doesn't have that authority.
I said I don't have the authority to call it. I said I don't have the authority to request to order a special meeting. I can request all I want.
Right,
I don't have the authority to do it.
and then she stated that you asked her, and then she stated that she asked Bob about that. And unless we're all deaf, Councilman Hayes says that he received an email that Bob Valdez stated he did not ask for the meeting. So
He didn't ask for the meeting, he authorized it.
right, he's saying he did not.
Respectfully, sir,
We just want clarification on that, 'cause that's what it sounds like.
President Valdez authorized the meeting.
Mike, for clarification, was there anything else, just to double check, is there anything you want to say? Okay, thank you. Okay, so, we do have the motion by Barbara's gonna repeat this, and seconded by James to go into the closed session at 7:15 PM. I'm gonna change that to 7:30. Per the MCL 15.268E and H, a settlement demand in the matter of the continued employment of Dale Greenleaf by the village of Blissfield. We've had discussions. Lisa, would you please take roll? Tim,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
yes,
James,
Yes.
Barb, yes. Jerry,
No.
Gwen, yes. The motion passed. Members of the village council, the administrator, the clerk, and the attorney will be going into closed sessions in the conference room. We respectfully request for the public to exit chambers at this time. Administrator Gross will be closing and locking the doors. When we come out of closed session, Administrator Gross will unlock and open the doors. The public will be welcomed to return to chambers. Thank you.